Hi, I'm Elizabeth Also Brooks, and I'm here to talk to you about Stolen Secrets. It's my very first spin off romance from my Illuminati series. Bringing up the Illuminati, I would like to address one of the questions Patricia so wisely asked me, and that was, why the Illuminati? Why so much interest in it, and why does it figure so prominently in all my work? Simple. It's one of the best what ifs. Fiction writers love to answer what if questions, and we know that the Illuminati existed, but there's a great deal of discrepancy about and disagreement about when did they start? Were they the Knights Templar? Were they connected to the Vatican or the Church? What was their actual purpose? How long did they exist? Do they still exist? Are they connected to the Masons? Um, and I think it's pretty obvious that yes, they were in some way. So this is something that has always fascinated me. My undergrad was medieval and ancient literature and history. So as a big history buff, of course, I love what if. I also love Egyptian mythology, which is the foundation of my series. So I've tied in the Illuminati and the what if of the pyramids and who created them and why and where did they get the technology and was it always here or did someone bring it? So that is the basis from which my books stem, of my Illuminati series books. And there's some big surprises in this book, I think. I think that once they get into the tomb of the high priest, some exciting things are going to happen that will surprise most of the readers. I hope so. My beta readers were surprised, and they seem to enjoy it. I hope you do too. So let me get into this a little bit, and you'll discover in the beginning of this book how I like to close my eyes and imagine, where did this take place? What was there? What do I see? What do I smell? What did I hear? And I also like to take my characters that have lived for hundreds, sometimes thousands of years. Some of them are immortal. So what would you do if you had lived for thousands of years and had lived through all of history and civilization and you had experienced everything that has happened? How would you be different? What would be of interest to you? Would you just embrace all the modern technologies, or would you bring some of the old customs and cultures and traditions? I have to say that I think most everybody would have certain things they love that they wouldn't be able to let go of. Cultures love traditions. People love traditions. Families even love traditions. So um, I think that they would hang on to those, and they wouldn't change necessarily all that much if you had lived for centuries. There's some things you would hold on to dearly, um, and they do. For example, Queen Isis. Some of you have read the Book of Life. Know that she has this love of all things that she had back there in way of clothing and traditions, and when they're at court, her children are required to dress in the old ways, and which makes some of them, the Kieran, who is the main character in the second book, loves all the modern styles and fashions, and well, she's a scientist, so she likes to explore and discover new things. That's her deal. But in this book, there are some eccentricities that some of the characters have, and if you lived for hundreds of years, there are certain things that you would do that were different. For example, if you wanted to ride a horse in Cairo, of all things, this urban sprawl city now, but you had lived hundreds of years before there ever was this urban sprawl city of Cairo, there are certain things that you would do differently, but you would hold on to some of the things that you loved, and you'll discover that one of the characters at the very beginning, you'll discover what I'm talking about. So without further ado, here we go. Everything about the shop was irregular, including the displays, which projected at odd angles, supported by ornate wooden brackets and the occasional bookcase or other Egyptian artifact. Its merchandise had been collected and added to over a lifetime of adventures, and the result was vastly eclectic and often mismatched and even mysterious. The windows of the cluttered antiquities dealership, not yet shuttered, allowed slanted sunlight to illuminate dust motes, thick and insidious, seeking every crevice and ornate feature in which to drift. Brushing her hand across the table to clear it of its most recent layer, Isabella unrolled the map and traced the route with her fingertip. She heard the bell above the front door jingle, waited for the expected greeting, and sighed. 5 minutes later, and Misha would have arrived to clean and bar the entrance, and then she could begin preparing for the dig of a lifetime. This incredible new commission would reward her with financial independence and the ability to pursue her genetically transmitted archaeology passion full-time. No more being stuck in this dusty little means of survival. Besides his addiction for archaeologists and her impoverished but noble lineage, this was the only other inheritance her father had left her. She had loved her father, but she was sick of aching out a living selling trinkets to tourists. If she could spend more time in the field, she might actually have something valuable to sell, too. "Hello? Anyone around?" A deep male voice called in Arabic from the front of the shop. "Coming," Isabella replied in the same language, re-rolling the map and tucking it into a pocket of her skirt before hurrying through the hanging Persian rug labyrinth that served as a hallway of sorts, separating her office cubby and storage space from the main display floor. She emerged into the showroom to greet the latecomer and continued, "How may I help?" Surprised, she stopped for a moment, then quickly added, "May I help you?" Her customer was an incredibly handsome man, though that wasn't the most surprising thing about him. He was, in fact, the second attractive visitor to her establishment that very day. But this one she recognized. She had seen him around Cairo in the past. Never up close and not in person, but she knew of him. Who didn't? What is he doing in my lowly little shop, Isabella wondered. "There you are," said the tall Bedouin, flashing straight white teeth worthy of a dental ad, which contrasted beautifully against his tan skin and the indigo-dyed blue of his robes and keffiyeh, which matched his startlingly blue eyes, Isabella noticed with further surprise. "Lady Isabella Valentine, I've come to offer you an incredible sum, in either gold or British pounds, your choice, for the most exciting archaeological dig you will ever go on." "What?" She glanced toward the door and noted 2 more Bedouins standing sentry on either side of the entryway. More, she knew, would be outside, no doubt attending to the beautiful black stallion of Prince Mukhtar, eldest son and heir of Sheikh Abdul Kamul al-Rahman, leader of the Hassana. The gold jay of his keffiyeh might as well have been a crown, but the entourage he traveled with assured his identity could not be mistaken. "Forgive me, Lady Valentine," he replied, this time in flawless English. "Allow me to introduce myself." She held up her hand and said, No need for that, Prince Mukhtar. Everyone in Cairo knows who you are. But please, do explain what you're talking about." He bowed his head politely and took a step closer. Looking down at her, he said softly, "Of course, my lady, with pleasure. I wish to procure your services as an archaeologist." "I seek this," he said, pulling a drawing from somewhere within his robe and extending it toward her. She took the drawing, happy to distract herself from the intensity of his stare, the penetrating azure gaze that both took her breath away and made her want to gasp in gulps of air to fuel the manic beating of her heart at his nearness. Then recognition made her inhale slowly, as she willed herself to remain outwardly calm. She looked up and said, "May I ask why you are seeking this?" "So you are familiar with the piece," he said, as fact and not a question, and the small smile he bestowed upon her matched the warmth in his voice as if she had just paused to pass some test at which she had hoped she would excel. Yes, of course. Most of my field would recognize the chalice of Isis. But you didn't answer my question, she persisted. I have a buyer with bottomless pockets, of course. And do you know where it is located? He asked, small dimples appearing in his cheeks. I'm afraid I can't help you, Isabella said, handing him back the sketch. He made no move to accept it, but instead chuckled, a rich, deep timbre that made her smile in response until he said, Now you have not answered my question. And she wished she had just shared an intimate joke so that they could become better acquainted instead of parting company. And at that note, I will now part company with you. And I hope you've enjoyed this brief reading and introduction, and I hope you buy the book and enjoy it and leave a review so that I can hear what you had to say.